Let's have a conversation that most people are far too distracted to even begin. And I mean that quite literally. Most people will scroll right past this video. They'll notice the title, feel a brief flicker of recognition somewhere deep inside their chest, and then swipe away because something within them already senses that this conversation will be uncomfortable. And in today's world, discomfort is something we have been conditioned to avoid at almost any cost. But you're still here, and that means something. We often imagine wasting a life as something dramatic, a huge failure, a sudden collapse, a cinematic fall from grace. We picture it as hitting rock bottom, losing everything, falling apart in public, some obvious and undeniable breakdown. But that is rarely how it actually unfolds. For most people, life is not lost in one loud explosion. It disappears slowly, quietly, and often in the most comfortable ways imaginable. It's the Tuesday afternoon spent scrolling until your eyes blur, not because you're happy, but because you're numb. It's the passion project that has been sitting in a folder for 3 years, untouched, silently judging you every time you scroll past it. It's standing in front of the mirror and seeing someone who looks like you and sounds like you, yet somehow no longer feels like you. Somewhere along the journey, without a single dramatic moment to point to, you slowly became a supporting character in a story that was always meant to be yours. That is the silent tragedy of our generation. We are living in an era of what I call functional stagnation. You might have a stable job, pay your bills on time, and check every traditional box of adulthood. Yet internally, it feels as if you're just a passenger in a car you were meant to be driving. Technically, you're moving. The calendar keeps turning. The years keep passing. But you're not heading anywhere that truly means something to you. And deep down, in those quiet moments before sleep, you feel it. That restless, hollow sense that something important in your life is being left unlived. This is not about hustle culture or corporate productivity. It runs far deeper than that. This touches the core psychology of human existence. Why do we settle for fine when we are genuinely capable of something extraordinary? Why is it so much easier to stay inside a slightly uncomfortable but familiar cage than to walk through a door that has been standing wide open for years? The philosopher Martin Heidegger explored this idea through a concept he called das Man, or simply the they. His insight was that most people don't actually live their own lives. Instead, they live the life they believe others expect of them. We speak their words, chase their version of success, measure ourselves by their standards, and quietly inherit their fears. We become so fluent in the language of other people's expectations that eventually we forget what our own voice sounds like. Breaking free from that is not a single moment of revelation or a sudden life-changing epiphany. It is a daily and often uncomfortable encounter with truth. It is the gradual realization that your comfort zone is not really a place of safety. It is a velvet-lined coffin. It may look pleasant, it may feel familiar, but nothing inside it grows. So today, we are going deeper than surface-level motivation. We are going to explore 5 honest and deeply uncomfortable truths that may be quietly acting as emergency brakes on your potential. These are not quick tips or motivational phrases to screenshot and forget by tomorrow. These are shifts in how you see your own life. And if you can sit with these truths honestly, if you can resist the urge to simply nod along and then return to your usual routine, you may begin to reclaim the years you have been silently donating to things that never truly deserved your time. If you are tired of the autopilot version of yourself, the one that keeps telling every dream maybe tomorrow, then stay with me through every section. Your brain is biologically wired to avoid exactly the kind of information that would interrupt its comfortable routine. That is not a character flaw. It is simple biology. The brain prioritizes safety and efficiency above everything else. But today, we work through that together. If you are done living on autopilot, type this in the comments right now. I choose to wake up. Number 1, the sunk cost of a false identity. One of the deepest and most painful reasons people waste years, sometimes entire decades of their lives, is a psychological trap known as the sunk cost fallacy. In economics, a sunk cost is money that has already been spent and cannot be recovered, no matter what you do next. Smart investors are taught to ignore sunk costs when making future decisions because the money is gone regardless. The next decision should be based on what benefits you moving forward, not on what has already been lost. But in real life, almost no one operates this way. In life, a sunk cost becomes the time, energy, emotional investment, and identity you have poured into a version of yourself that no longer reflects who you truly are. We stay in degrees we hate, telling ourselves we are almost finished. We remain in relationships that emotionally ended years ago because we have so much history together. We keep climbing career ladders that are leaning against the completely wrong wall, spending years becoming better at a job that was never right for us. All because we have already invested so much into it. We convince ourselves that leaving now would mean those years were wasted. But here is the brutal and strangely liberating truth: that time is already gone. It is gone whether you stay or whether you leave. Remaining in a miserable situation for another 5 years will not recover the 5 years you already spent there. It simply doubles the cost of the mistake. You are not honoring your past by staying stuck. You are sacrificing your future just to protect an ego that does not want to admit it made the wrong choice. Think about how this appears in everyday life. Someone spends 4 years studying law, hates every moment of it, but continues because quitting would make those 4 years feel meaningless. Another person stays in a relationship that has been painfully wrong for 2 years because of a shared apartment, shared friends, and all the emotional energy already invested. These are not rare cases. This is how the majority of people quietly tax themselves for their unwillingness to cut their losses. We often confuse consistency with growth, but there is a critical difference between the two. Consistency in the right direction builds a meaningful life. Consistency in the wrong direction is simply a long-term mistake disguised as discipline. Many people are fiercely loyal to an identity they actually outgrew years ago. Maybe you are still chasing a dream you had at 18, trying to become a certain type of professional or live a specific type of life, without recognizing that at 28 or 38, your values, priorities, and sense of self have evolved into something completely different. It is like trying to wear clothes that are 3 sizes too small and then wondering why breathing feels difficult. This connects closely to what psychologists call narrative identity theory, the idea that human beings are not simply biological organisms moving through time. We are storytelling creatures. From childhood, we begin constructing an internal story about who we are, and then we spend the rest of our lives defending that story, even when it is actively working against us. If your internal narrative says, "I am someone who never quits," you may ignore every signal telling you that quitting is not weakness, it is wisdom. If your story says, "I am a loyal person," you may remain loyal to situations and people long after that loyalty has stopped making sense. You become trapped inside your own self-concept, locked in a story written years ago that you never thought to revise. To live with genuine purpose, you must be willing to become a so-called traitor to your past self. You must get comfortable with people saying, "You have changed." Because of course you have. You are supposed to. Things that remain completely static, things that never grow or evolve, are usually dead. Change is not a betrayal of who you once were. It is the most honest act you can make for the person you are becoming. Here is a simple test you can apply right now. Look at your 3 or 4 biggest commitments: your job, your relationship, your main daily habits. Ask yourself honestly, if I were starting fresh today, with 0 history and 0 time invested, would I choose this again? Would I apply for this job if I saw the listing tomorrow? Would I choose this relationship if I met this person for the first time today? If the honest answer is no, not it's complicated or mostly yes, but truly no, then you are no longer investing. You are simply paying a daily tax on fear. As Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Most people live almost entirely as what happened to them. The degree they chose at a confused 18, the town they stayed in because leaving felt too difficult, the identity they inherited from family expectations or their own fear. True purpose begins the moment you realize that your identity is a working draft, not a finished document. It can be edited, it can be rewritten, and you are the one holding the pen. The Stoics understood this better than most. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not only referring to external chaos, bad weather, or difficult people. He was also pointing toward the internal stories we cling to long after they stop serving us. The Stoic path asks you to clearly separate what you truly are at your core from what has merely happened to you along the way. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and had every reason to build his identity around suffering and limitation, went on to become one of the most influential philosophers in history. He put it simply, "Make the best use of what is within your power, and take the rest as it happens." He refused to allow the identity forced upon him by circumstances to define his character. Neither should you. If you are ready to release who you used to be, claim this in the comments: "I am allowed to change." Number 2. The illusion of productive distraction. If we are truly honest with ourselves, busy is the most convincing disguise a wasted life can wear. In modern culture, busyness has been elevated into a kind of social currency. Packed calendars are treated like symbols of status. A full schedule signals to the world, and more dangerously to ourselves, that we are important, needed, and moving forward. We answer messages at midnight to prove dedication. We skip lunch to show commitment. We speak about exhaustion the way athletes talk about their training, with a quiet, tired pride. But there is a massive and often invisible difference between motion and progress. You can run on a treadmill for 2 hours, burn real calories, feel genuinely exhausted, and still end up in the exact same physical place where you started. That is what active procrastination looks like in real life. Massive effort, real fatigue, 0 real movement. We fill our days with what could be called low-stakes maintenance work. We respond to every minor email within minutes as if the speed of our reply determines the value of our existence. We obsess over the visual formatting of a document that never truly needed formatting. We attend meetings that could easily have been a single message. We research our goals so deeply and so constantly that the research itself slowly becomes a replacement for the goal. We tell ourselves we are preparing, but preparation that never turns into action is simply procrastination wearing a more respectable outfit. And the honest reason this happens is simple. The real work, the deep, high-stakes, identity-level work required for a meaningful life, is genuinely frightening. Writing the first page of a book means facing the possibility that you might not be as talented as you once believed. Making the phone call that could launch your business means risking real rejection. Having the honest conversation that could transform a relationship means risking real loss. These are not small fears. They are heavy and very human fears. And your brain, which is wired primarily for safety and survival rather than greatness or meaning, will almost always choose the safer, lower-risk task, if you allow it to run on autopilot. Remaining stuck in endless preparation becomes a defense mechanism, a very sophisticated one. If you are always preparing, you can never officially fail. You are simply still getting ready. And as long as you are still getting ready, you remain protected from the sting of trying and falling short. Psychologists call this productivity theater, performing a convincing show of progress for an audience of one while the real work quietly remains undone. The Pareto principle, commonly known as the 80-20 rule, tells us that roughly 80% of meaningful results in any area of life come from just 20% of activities. For most people, that crucial 20%, the deep, creative, direction-changing work, gets pushed aside every single day by the loud urgency of trivial maintenance tasks. We become truly world-class at things that do not matter, while the actions that could genuinely transform our lives remain sitting on a to-do list we never quite reach. There is also a concept called the law of force deficiency. It states something very simple. There is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing. When you catch yourself saying, "I just don't have time for that," translate it honestly. What you really mean is, that is not currently my priority. Every one of us has the same 24 hours that Marcus Aurelius had, the same hours that Seneca had, the same hours that every person you have ever admired had. The difference between those lives and the average one was never the amount of time available. It was always the quality of their focus and the ruthlessness of their priorities. Here is a practical exercise worth trying today. Think back over the last 48 hours of your life and be completely honest with yourself. How many of those hours went toward maintaining what already exists, existing relationships on their current terms, existing habits, existing responsibilities? And how many of those hours went toward building something genuinely new? If that ratio leans heavily toward maintenance, then you are not building a life. You are simply managing one. And a managed life is very different from a truly lived one. Purpose does not come from clearing your inbox. It does not come from being the fastest person to reply to messages on your team. Purpose requires you to stop acting only as the manager of your current circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future ones. Stop focusing only on getting things done and start focusing on doing the right things. The difference may sound subtle, but in practice it changes everything. The writer Annie Dillard once observed that how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. Not our years, not our decades, but our days. The individual, seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon. If your days become a consistent blur of minor tasks, digital noise, and low-stakes maintenance, then your life, your one irreplaceable and non-refundable life, will become a blur of missed potential and unlived meaning. It is time to cut through the noise so you can finally hear the signal, the real signal, the one quietly telling you what you are actually here to build. The Stoics had a name for this kind of focused clarity. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He was not complaining that life is brief. He was pointing out, with typical Stoic honesty, that we scatter the time we do have on things that simply do not deserve it. Marcus Aurelius turned that observation into a daily discipline. Confine yourself to the present, not yesterday's unfinished inbox, not tomorrow's hypothetical plan. The present moment, and the single most important action available within it. That is where purposeful people actually live. Drop this in the comments if you are done hiding behind busyness. I choose impact, not noise. Number 3. The paralysis of the perfect season. Most of us are quietly waiting for permission from the universe. There is this deep belief, rarely spoken but widely felt, that someday a perfect season will arrive when everything finally aligns. The finances will be stable, the relationship will feel secure, health will be at its peak, the kids will be older and need less attention. The job will feel settled enough to create breathing room. And then, finally, we will begin pursuing the life we truly want to live. Waiting feels responsible, it feels mature, it even feels wise. But look at it honestly. When in your entire life have things ever completely settled down? When have there been months, forget years, where no unexpected responsibilities appeared, no new complications emerged, no legitimate reasons to delay just a little longer? Search your memory for that season, the moment when everything was calm, organized, and perfectly aligned for you to begin. It does not exist. It has never existed, and it never will. Life is not a sequence of peaceful stretches occasionally interrupted by storms. Life is constant transition, constant change, and constant overlapping demands that never fully resolve before the next ones appear. If you keep waiting for the right time to pursue what genuinely matters to you, you will keep waiting all the way until your final years. Looking back across decades with that painful clarity that only arrives when there is no time left to change anything. We often use the future as a storage unit for our present lack of courage. We imagine a future version of ourselves who is somehow braver, more disciplined, more rested, and more prepared than we are today. We imagine that future self will have fewer excuses, more energy, and a clearer mind. But here is the truth that should unsettle all of us. Your future self is simply you, with less time remaining and more deeply ingrained habits of hesitation. Every day you choose waiting instead of starting, you train yourself to become better at waiting. You are not building readiness, you are building avoidance. Psychologists who study this pattern call it temporal discounting, the brain's natural tendency to undervalue future rewards compared to immediate comfort. When faced with a choice between the short-term safety of staying comfortable today and the long-term reward of a meaningful life in the future, the brain almost always chooses today's comfort. This is not a moral failure. It is simply how human neurology works. But once you understand the mechanism, you gain the power to override it. There is also something called the Zeigarnik effect, which describes the mental tension created by unfinished or unstarted tasks. Here is something many people never realize. When you tell yourself next year, you do not actually feel relief. You do not get to put the idea down and rest. Your brain keeps the task open, running quietly in the background, adding weight to a growing pile of subconscious anxiety each time you postpone it. You are not resting by waiting. You are exhausting yourself with the invisible weight of everything you keep meaning to begin. The perfect season is a mirage. It remains the same distance away no matter how long you walk toward it. The only moment where you truly have the power to act is right now, not tomorrow, not after the next transition. This exact, imperfect, inconveniently timed moment. Here is what the Stoics understood that many people spend a lifetime missing. Circumstances will always be imperfect. Resources will always feel slightly insufficient. Confidence will never fully arrive before you begin. The Stoic did not wait for external conditions to align before taking action. They acted within whatever conditions existed and did so with full presence and commitment. If you cannot pursue your purpose in the middle of chaos, you will not know what to do with silence, even if it somehow appears. Start the project while the house is noisy. Write the first page while you are tired. Make the difficult phone call even while your voice still trembles slightly. An imperfect beginning taken today is infinitely more valuable than the perfect beginning that never happens. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of what you do not have, but count the blessings you actually possess." He was not asking you to lower your ambitions. He was reminding you to stop using the fantasy of better conditions as an excuse to avoid working with the real conditions in front of you. Seneca added a practical edge to that wisdom. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. But opportunity does not wait patiently for you to feel ready. It arrives on its own unpredictable schedule. The Stoic approach was never to wait for luck. It was to stay in motion so that when the moment arrived, you were already moving toward it. If you are tired of waiting for the perfect moment, say it out loud and type it. I start now. Number 4, the perfectionism paradox and the fear of being a beginner. This truth may be the most quietly destructive on this entire list because, unlike the others, it disguises itself as something admirable. Perfectionism feels like caring. It feels like having high standards. It feels like taking your craft seriously. Because of that, we not only accept it, we often celebrate it. People proudly say, "I'm a perfectionist," as if it is a strength, especially in professional settings. It becomes part of their identity. They believe they simply refuse to put anything into the world unless it meets an extremely high standard. But if you step back and look honestly at what perfectionism does to a person's life over time, the picture becomes far less admirable. The truth is that many people are not wasting their potential because they lack ambition or drive. They are wasting it because their ambition is so high that they become paralyzed by the fear of producing anything that falls short of excellence. We live in a world that constantly shows us the polished results of other people's work. We see the final product, the highlight reel, the finished version after years of effort and refinement. What we rarely see is the awkward beginning, the early mistakes, the uncertainty and struggle that existed before that final version appeared. When we compare our messy beginnings to someone else's finished result, we feel a deep sense of inadequacy. The gap between what we imagine creating and what we can currently produce feels embarrassing. To protect ourselves from that uncomfortable feeling, we do the one thing that guarantees we never have to face it. We stop creating. We keep our ideas inside our heads where they remain perfect, untouched, and safe from criticism. An idea in your mind can always stay brilliant because it has never been tested. But once an idea enters the real world, it immediately becomes imperfect. That is unavoidable. This is the hidden paradox at the center of perfectionism. By refusing to be a beginner, you guarantee that you will never become an expert. There is no shortcut around the learning curve. There is no way to skip the awkward and humbling early stages of learning something meaningful. Every person you admire today once stood exactly where you are standing. Every writer once wrote clumsy sentences. Every entrepreneur once made mistakes that cost them time and money. Every athlete once looked uncoordinated and inexperienced. The difference is simple. They continued despite the discomfort of being imperfect. They allowed themselves to produce a large volume of imperfect attempts, and over time, the quality of their work slowly rose until it matched the vision they carried in their minds. A purposeful life requires a willingness to feel embarrassed. It requires the courage to be the least experienced person in the room and remain there long enough to grow. It requires you to share the work that is only 80% of what you imagined, because 80% shared with the world is infinitely more valuable than 100% that remains hidden forever. Research by psychologist Carol Dweck on fixed and growth mindsets explains this clearly. A fixed mindset treats failure as a judgment on identity. If something goes wrong, the person believes it proves they are not capable. A growth mindset interprets failure differently. It treats it as useful feedback, information that helps refine the next attempt. These two interpretations of the same event lead to completely different lives. If you are deeply afraid of being seen as average, unfinished, or still learning, you will avoid the visible risks required to become exceptional. You will remain inside the safe boundaries of what you already know how to do. Over time, that comfort zone quietly becomes a prison. Social comparison makes this even worse. Humans naturally compare themselves to the people around them. For most of human history, that comparison involved a small community. But today, the people we compare ourselves to include the most successful individuals in the world, displayed through perfectly edited highlights on our screens every day. Comparing your first week to someone else's 10th year is not motivation. It is a form of psychological self-sabotage. You are not competing with them. You are competing with the version of yourself who almost gave up before starting. Begin something today knowing it will not be perfect. Write the awkward first paragraph. Record the uncertain first video. Send the rough first draft. The goal is not immediate excellence. The goal is to build tolerance for being seen as someone who is still growing. Because that is the truth for every honest human being. Lower the barrier to starting. That is the only way the standard of your work can eventually rise. The Stoics practiced something similar through a concept called premeditatio malorum, the practice of imagining difficulties before they occur. They did not expect perfect outcomes. Instead, they mentally prepared for setbacks, mistakes, and obstacles. By doing this, imperfections stopped feeling like failure and started feeling like a normal step along the path. One Stoic teacher explained that true ability is not something waiting outside you for the perfect moment. It is built through repetition, effort, mistakes, and the quiet discipline of continuing when progress feels slow. Another Stoic reflection simplifies the entire idea. Focus only on doing the right action in the present moment. The outcome will always follow its own course. If this idea resonates with you, leave this reminder for yourself. Progress over perfection. Number 5, the memento mori of the digital age. Most people understand intellectually that human life is finite. We know that we will eventually die, but we know it in the same way we know distant facts, something abstract that does not strongly influence our daily choices. In practice, most of us behave as though time is unlimited. We act as if the life we want can begin later, once things feel slightly more organized, slightly more comfortable, slightly more certain. Evening after evening, many people enter what could be called recovery mode. They scroll through endless content they barely enjoy. They half-watch shows they will forget by the next morning. They decompress from a day they did not consciously design. Night after night, they exchange the most valuable resource they possess for temporary distraction. That resource is time. Imagine for a moment that every morning you received exactly $1,440 in a bank account. There is only one rule. Any amount you fail to spend by midnight disappears forever. It cannot be saved. It cannot roll over. It simply vanishes. If that were your reality, you would become extremely careful about how you used every dollar. You would not casually allow hundreds to disappear without thought. You would treat every amount with intention. Now replace those dollars with minutes. Every day you receive 1,440 minutes, and the same rule applies. Every minute that passes disappears permanently. You can always earn more money. You can rebuild health. You can repair relationships. But there is no situation in which you can create more time. Every hour spent worrying about opinions that will soon be forgotten is gone forever. Every evening lost in meaningless distraction quietly subtracts from the total length of your life. The Stoic philosophers built an entire practice around remembering this truth. They called it memento mori, which means remember that you will die. This was not meant to create fear. It was meant to create clarity. When a person truly understands that time is limited, trivial concerns begin to fade. The desire to impress others becomes less important. Petty distractions lose their power. What remains are the things that genuinely matter: meaningful work, genuine relationships, personal growth, and living with intention. Remembering mortality does not make life darker, it makes it sharper and more vivid. Modern psychology has observed a similar pattern. Research on socio-emotional selectivity theory shows that as people grow older and begin to recognize the limits of their time, their priorities shift dramatically. They stop focusing on accumulating more possessions or superficial achievements. Instead, they prioritize meaningful relationships, deeper experiences, and activities that feel truly fulfilling. They stop wasting energy on things that drain them or people who bring no real value to their lives. The important realization is that you do not have to wait until old age to develop that clarity. You can develop it today. Try a simple exercise. Estimate how many weeks you have already lived by multiplying your age by 52. Then estimate how many weeks might remain if you reach an average lifespan. Write both numbers down and place them side by side. Seeing the numbers often creates a powerful realization. Time is not an endless resource. It is a finite one. Your life is not a rehearsal. There is no second performance waiting later. The clock is always moving forward. The real question is not whether time is passing. The real question is what you will build with the limited time that remains. This is exactly what the Stoics practiced every single morning. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men of the ancient world, wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That line was never meant as poetry or public philosophy. It was his personal morning reminder, a daily discipline of urgency, awareness, and intentional living. Seneca, who endured exile and lived for years under the constant shadow of Emperor Nero's suspicion, wrote with the clarity of someone who had truly faced mortality, "Begin living immediately and treat every single day as if it were an entire life of its own. Not someday, not when circumstances improve, but now. Each day, approached as a complete and irreplaceable unit, lived with purpose, awareness, and full presence. If you're ready to stop wasting the minutes that will never return, say it clearly. My time is sacred. Now let's bring this into focus." 5 truths. Not 5 quick tricks, not 5 productivity hacks, but 5 honest and uncomfortable realities about why capable people spend years, sometimes entire lifetimes, living far below their true potential. You remain loyal to an outdated identity that no longer reflects who you are, and you label it consistency. You bury yourself in low-risk busyness and call it productivity. You wait endlessly for perfect conditions that will never arrive, and you call it patience. You avoid imperfect beginnings and disguise it as having high standards. And you spend the only currency you can never replenish as if it were unlimited, simply because confronting its limits feels too uncomfortable. These are not signs of weakness. They are deeply human patterns. But the moment you recognize them, the moment you see them clearly for what they truly are, you take the first and most important step forward. Stopping the quiet waste of your life is not a soft or comfortable transformation. It is not a slow glow of tiny improvements over time. It requires a deliberate and sometimes difficult break from old habits. It means looking at these 5 truths and finally admitting that you have been holding the keys to your own cage the entire time. No one locked you in. The door has always been open. You can step out whenever you decide to, but doing so means leaving behind the heavy and familiar furniture of everything you have settled for. You don't need to see the entire path before you begin. You don't need a perfect plan or total certainty about the destination. You don't need complete confidence or flawless conditions. You simply need to stop standing still. Purpose is not something you randomly discover one day like a lost set of keys. It is not hidden somewhere waiting to be uncovered. Purpose is built. It is created slowly, brick by brick, decision by decision, morning by morning. It lives inside the difficult conversation you finally stop avoiding. It shows up in the early morning you choose discipline over comfort. It appears in the first imperfect draft you share, even though it is not fully ready. It grows in the courageous decision to allow people to see you as someone still learning, still evolving, still becoming. Because that is exactly what you are. That is what every purposeful and growing human being is at every stage of life. Stop waiting for the polished, fully prepared, completely confident version of yourself to appear and take control of your life. That version is not coming. It never was. The person capable of extraordinary things is not some future upgraded edition of you. It is the imperfect, uncertain, slightly exhausted, yet deeply capable person who chose to show up here today. Use what you already have. Start where you are standing. Begin with whatever is directly in front of you right now. Your life is unfolding in this exact breath. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you finally feel ready. Now, if something in this message resonated with you today, take one small action. Share it with someone in your life who might need to hear it. Leave a comment and tell me which of these 5 truths struck you the most. And subscribe to become part of this community of rising minds, people who have quietly and firmly decided that an average life is not their destination. Before you leave this video, write your commitment below. Let the world witness it. My purpose starts now.